This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk with Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young on ESPN Radio 94.1.
Back here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk, powered by Larry King Law. Injured in an accident, you call 757-INJURED for Larry King. With the coach, Ed Young, I am Matt Hatfield. And Ed, we're pleased to be joined by one of the very best in the business when it comes down to talking baseball. He's also the author of I'm Fascinated by Sacrifice Flies. You see him all the time on ESPN television. You hear him here on ESPN Radio, ESPN.com. He's been calling games and doing all kinds of baseball coverage for many, many years. Tim Kurkjian, so kind to give us a few minutes here on ESPN Radio 94.1. Good morning, Tim. How's life treating you?
Life is great. We've got two more playoff games tonight, one that could make history. Doesn't get much better than this.
Absolutely, and I want to get to that with you here in a moment. But I want to start with, it's been a sports year and a baseball season unlike any other. Take us through what the emotions have been like for you, covering the sport, calling the games, and all that goes with it. I mean, I imagine it's a mixed bag of pluses and minuses, pros and cons, but considering how dicey things were in the middle of the summer, baseball has to be thrilled to have reached this point, right?
Yes, and so am I, because we went, 3 months without any baseball, and it was terrible. It was torture, and even though there are far, far bigger things and more important things in this country that need to be fixed, not having baseball really hurt me and a lot of people. So when the season started, I wasn't even sure we were going to get it started. Then I wasn't sure we were going to finish it. And I know a lot of people in the business and people in baseball who didn't think we'd ever get to the point that we are right now. So this is a tribute mostly to the players and anyone around the teams that just decided we have to do a great job with health and safety protocols. Otherwise, we're not going to finish this season. And it's been the weirdest, strangest, most bizarre season ever. But lately the games have been pretty darn good, and I can't wait to see what happens from here.
Hey, Tim, Ed Young here, and again, we really thank you for coming on. We know you're a busy man. You touched upon it. Something historic could happen today. If I'm assuming if you're talking about Houston coming back from a 3-0 deficit to win it all, and, of course, if Atlanta goes down tonight, they'll have to go Game 7 tomorrow. Give us your insight on both of these situations, starting first with Houston-Tampa.
Well, the Houston situation is just amazing, given how much heat they were taking in spring training. I have never seen players go after players from other teams as vociferously as they went after the Astros. And I think the Astros were hurt by that. I don't think they expected that kind of heat from their fellow players. So to make the playoffs, granted under 500, was and then play this well in the playoffs has been remarkable. And to come back from 3-0 to 3-3, only one team's ever done that in the history of baseball. And if they win tonight, they'll make history. It's a stunningly good story. And yet the Rays are an equally good story. They went 40-20 this year. They have a really good team. Not anyone even knows who those relievers are, but they all throw 100 miles an hour. And I love the way that team plays. But they're in trouble today. But that's what makes baseball so great. Just when you think you understood that series, you realize you don't. And I have no idea what's going to happen tonight, which is the best part about it.
We mentioned Tampa, and you said that team, they play well. People don't know a lot of their names. Of course, we have a favorite on that squad, and he's going through a tough situation, though. Hit a home run last night, and that's Brandon Lowe.
Yeah, he's a great kid. He went to the University of Maryland where I went, so I have a slight bias towards him. But, he was an MVP candidate after 2 months, and then he really, slid a little bit in September and has really struggled in October. Speaking again to the degree of difficulty of this game, you get off by just an inch with your timing, and suddenly a really good player becomes a not-so-good player. But something big is still ahead for Brandon Lowe in this postseason, I'm sure. And he's a great kid with a great future. And the fact that he can move around the field, he played second, he played left field yesterday, is a real tribute to him and to the Rays, how they use him. He's got a great future, and I can't wait to see how he blossoms, not just this postseason, but moving on.
Talking with ESPN Major League Baseball analyst Tim Kurkjian here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on ESPN Radio 94.1. You're home for the World Series and also the Game 6 and Game 7 with the NLCS and ALCS today, 4:38 Eastern, the first pitch today with the Game 6 between the Dodgers and Braves. Game 7, Rays Astros, 8:37 first pitch. You got Fried versus Buehler and Dodgers Braves, Tim and McCullers versus Morton and Rays Astros. And I saw the stat tweeted out yesterday about Blake Snell now having gone 19 straight starts without going 6 innings pitched. It's the longest active streak in Major League Baseball among non-openers, regular season and playoffs. The last time he completed 6 innings was July 21st of last year. I mean, ordinarily in years past, we'd say, all right, the starting pitching matchup is going to dictate things, but now it's almost in playoff baseball become a lot more about bullpens, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's completely about bullpens now, and it worries me, I must say. I'm 63 years old, and I grew up at a time when Bob Gibson, Mickey Lolich, all sorts of people pitched all the way through October and through 9 innings every time out. Now we're starting an opener in games. We had a game the other night with the Rays and the Astros where the first 8 pitchers in the game were rookies. It was unbelievable. But this is where we are now in winner-take-all games, in clinching games. The Braves started A.J. Minter last night. He was great. He's never started a game in his professional career. The most outs he'd ever gotten in a game was 5 in his major league career, and he started last night and pitched great for 3 innings. But that's how we do it now. We have bullpen games, we have openers, and we just don't have Bob Gibson, stalking out to the mound in 1967 and saying, give me the ball, and I'm not giving it back until I beat these guys in 9 innings. Those days are over, fellas, and I miss them, I must say.
That's a good point, Tim. We had mentioned that earlier, too. And you had your Gaylord Perrys and Nolan Ryans. They would pitch, 300-400 innings a year. Now I don't think we're ever going to see that again. It's just how these pitchers are brought up now. We switch over and look at the Dodgers and the Braves. In this series, it seems like back and forth. All of a sudden, the Dodgers smack for 15 runs and was like, wow. Then all of a sudden, the next game, here comes Braves with 10. So give us some insight on that series.
Well, that's a really hard one to read. I still think the Dodgers are the best team in baseball, but this is the game of baseball. There's no telling what could happen any day. I think the Dodgers still have a lot left in them. They're a very, very dynamic offensive team. They hit 118 home runs this year, most in the major leagues. And we've seen the spurts of that again last night. We saw it. But they're up against Max Fried tonight, and if they beat him, they have to face Ian Anderson tomorrow. Those 2 pitchers have been awfully good lately. But the Dodgers have Walker Buehler, and then they'll throw Tony Gonsolin if it goes that far. So this is a pick-em series now. Even though the Braves have the lead and the Braves have a really good offensive team, I just keep thinking the Dodgers are going to make one more big move here. But I can't wait to see what happens, but it's so difficult to get your arms around the series because the Dodgers look like they're so dominant, and then they go, 12 innings and not score a run. It's amazing how strangely they've played this year.
It is the swings you have, even momentum, no momentum. It's been crazy. And Ed brought up earlier, Tim, about Brandon Lowe, a local product from here in Tidewater out of Nansemond River High School in Suffolk. We have another local star, and Chris Taylor out of Cox High School in Virginia Beach and the University of Virginia. Hurt his ankle or his leg there in Game 5, and I know he's only 2 for 14 with a couple of walks and 7 strikeouts in the series. He has been a very valuable utility type of guy for the Dodgers. If he's unable to play for them, I guess Enrique Hernandez, who came in, could be the option. How big of a situation is this if Taylor can go or can't go?
Well, he's such a valuable guy there because he can play the middle infield and the corner outfield, and not many guys could do that. Plus, he can hit, and he's gotten some big hits, and his average with runners on base is like 250 points higher than it is with nobody on base, implying at least that he's a really good clutch hitter. But they have so many moving parts there, and they have such great depth that they'll be able to fill in for Chris Taylor. But if he can't play tonight and they're a player down, that's really going to hurt them because that's how the Dodgers win, is with those interchangeable parts and movable pieces, and Chris Taylor is a really big part of that.
Tim, one of the things that follow up to on this series, Clayton Kershaw, not really the Clayton Kershaw during a regular season, but if you look at his statistics, is not as outstanding in the playoffs. And here's a guy that I would thought would come into these playoffs and dominate. Any worries for the Dodgers about him, or as you said earlier, hey, this is baseball. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. But, yes, there has to be a worry about Kershaw. This just doesn't follow how someone can have the lowest ERA in the live ball era in the regular season and the highest ERA in the postseason of anyone of all time. Granted, you have to be really good to pitch over 100 innings in the postseason, as he has, but it's really strange to be 2 runs higher in the postseason than you are in the regular season, and I can't figure it out. It's not that he's not in great shape or lacks the competitive gene. He can't wait to pitch. He can't wait to beat you, and he should be really fresh this year because they only pitched 60 games. And he was really good for 5 innings the other day, but he just lost it for the first 3 batters of the 6th, and that was enough to lose that game. I still think we're going to see him again this postseason, but if we don't and the Dodgers lose, then that narrative, unfortunately for Kershaw and the Dodgers, is going to continue.
Last 2 for you, Tim, and we appreciate the time. We're talking with ESPN Major League Baseball analyst Tim Kurkjian here on ESPN Radio 94.1 at 757 Saturday Sports Talk. What to you has been the biggest surprise this postseason? Has it been the young guns and the pitching staff for Atlanta delivering the way they have, the roller coaster of emotions, if you will, with the Dodgers and the Astros, or something else?
Well, I think the Braves pitching staff has, especially their starting staff, has been the biggest surprise. Their game 2, 3, 4, and 5 starters all were in the minor leagues at one point last year, and now they're pitching in playoff games. They are the first team ever to have 2 rookie starting pitchers win a postseason game in the same postseason, and they have 3 of them, given what Bryce Wilson did the other night. And he wasn't supposed to be more than a 2-inning guy against the Dodgers, and he allowed 2 base runners in 6 innings. Ian Anderson, everyone knew, had a chance to be really good, but no one knew he'd be this good. 15 2/3 innings, no runs allowed in the postseason so far. Christy Mathewson in 1905 is the last pitcher to allow no runs in his first 3 postseason starts. So that's been the biggest surprise to me, is that I thought the Braves starting pitching just wasn't up for the task, and it's been more than good.
And lastly, you've been doing this a long time, and you've seen a ton of baseball dramatic finishes in the postseason. Come Tuesday, would you be, willing to say you feel confident about any of the possibilities for the World Series, whether it's Braves versus Rays, Braves versus Astros, Dodgers versus Rays, Dodgers versus Astros? This is as unpredictable as it gets, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't get a feel for any of this, but that's the beauty of it. When LeBron James touches the ball on every possession, you usually have an idea how the game's going to be played and who's going to win, but you never know in baseball. I think the juiciest story, and I'm not rooting for anything, is if the Astros come back from 3-0 and make it to the World Series, and the Dodgers come back from 3-1 and play the Astros in the World Series. Now, that would be a World Series full of storylines, but it doesn't matter what we end up with. Braves, Rays, any combination is going to be great, because it's going to be a tribute to baseball that we actually made it through, and that in itself is going to be a stunning success.
Well, pull up a chair, get your favorite beverage and snack, and put on the radio, put on the television, and watch these LCS games. We'll have it for you right here on ESPN Radio 94.1, 4:38, the first pitch Eastern with the Dodgers Braves, followed by the Rays and Astros. He is Tim Kurkjian, ESPN baseball analyst, so kind to join us. Thank you so much, Tim. Enjoy the rest of the postseason, and we'll keep in touch.
Okay, guys. See ya.
Thanks, Tim.
That is the one and only Tim Kurkjian with us here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. So much knowledge and enthusiasm and energy. He's been doing it so long, you can just see the love for baseball with him like a little kid. So great to see. And we've got some theater today.
And them guys get him to laughing on the air. It's unbelievable.
We didn't ask him about avocados or do Kiko Alonso like Scott Van Pelt does. So we have a little more respect for him. Although we might get him at some point to do that when he's, get a chance to loosen up, not be so. Everybody's into these baseball games.
Tell you what, he's been good to us. He's coming on here. Phenomenal. He gets asked all over the country to come on, and he always finds time for us. So we appreciate that.
Love Tim Kurkjian. He is the absolute best when it comes to talking baseball and covering the sport. Been doing it so long and as successful as anyone.
And his local tie here is one of his teachers in school was
Harry Rest, who called in, the former Deep Creek basketball coach. How about that? That was
that's our tie-in. So.
Yes, absolutely. We thank Harry for hooking us up there. All right, we will come back and have hour 2 of 757 Saturday Sports Talk. I just got word Dino is so mad at Ed for picking the Bears that you're not going to stick around. You've been kicked out.
Yeah,
of the building.
Dino walked in and gave me some walking papers, so I guess I got to walk.
I guess I'll handle Damian Sordelette of the News in Advance out of Lynchburg coming up next solo right here on your home for sports. It's ESPN Radio 94.1.